Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask the clerk to report House Committee Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 237.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 237.
Gentleman from Greenup.
Mr. Speaker, I move adoption of House Committee Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 237.
Question before the body is on adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Greenup.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 237 removes the physical activity requirement for a police officer in good standing from another state who has been employed for at least 10 years. This change will help increase the number of police officers in Kentucky by making it easier for experienced officers to continue serving our communities. The House Committee Substitute to Senate Bill 237 makes necessary updates to the statutory language governing our state's public safety telecommunicators, the professionals who are the first point of contact in emergencies for Kentuckians. Ensuring well-trained telecommunicators is essential to emergency response and law enforcement support. Last session, House Bill 782 made significant strides in modernizing telecommunicator training, but some outdated and unclear language remained, particularly regarding training requirements for part-time telecommunicators. This committee substitutes fixes those issues and ensures clarity moving forward. This language establishes the Kentucky State Police, CJIS service agency, establishes that the agency is responsible for administrating CJIS training. This reflects the reality of how training has been conducted for years and eliminates outdated references to previous oversight entities. Additionally, this legislation ensures that part-time telecommunicators are not subject to requirements that make it unnecessarily difficult for local centers to hire and retain part-time personnel. By implementing a 40-hour online training course for part-time telecommunicators, we provide a practical and efficient pathway for them to meet their training obligations while ensuring that our public safety infrastructure remains top-notch. If a part-time telecommunicator later transitions to a full-time role, the training they have already completed will count toward the 160-hour Public Safety Telecommunicator Academy. At this time, I yield to the gentleman from Magoffin with a friendly floor amendment.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Magoffin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would you ask the clerk to report House Floor Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 237?
Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Floor Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 237.
Gentleman from Magoffin.
Mr. Speaker, this is a very simple amendment dealing with the physical agility test for a condition of employment. It just says that they must have passed a physical agility test in the state from which they were certified and from the agency they were certified with. That's all it does. This was worked out in agreement with everyone involved, and so if there's no questions on the floor amendment, I would move adoption.
Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. House Floor Amendment 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Magoffin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield back to the gentleman from Greenup. Greenup.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Greenup.
At this time, I'd like to yield to the gentleman from Barron with an additional friendly floor amendment.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you could have the clerk read House Floor Amendment 2 to Senate Bill 237.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Floor Amendment 2 to Senate Bill 237.
Gentleman from Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I talked to the senator from Callaway, who's the sponsor of this bill. Basically, what this does is yesterday we passed House Bill 491 for the universities. Just in case this bill is not heard by the Senate, we felt like we needed to add it as an amendment to this bill. And basically, House Floor Amendment 2 would remove the limitations on the number of retired police officers a public post-secondary education institution may employ. Move adoption.
Motion made for the adoption of House Floor Amendment 2. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. House Floor Amendment 2 is adopted. Gentleman from Barron.
Mr. Speaker, I yield back to the gentleman from Boyd.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Greenup.
If there are no questions, I move adoption of Senate Bill 237 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1 and House Floor Amendments 1 and 2.